Good morning, all the students. Let's now start our fourth module. I'll share with you all the slide decks related to first, second, and third modules. And after completing this chapter, I'll pass on these slides also. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Okay, in this chapter, we are going to cover on the design of Hadoop distributed file system and what are the important concepts under HDFS, like blocks, name nodes and data nodes, HDFS federation, HDFS high availability, and failover and fencing. We have seen in the last class that Hadoop 2.x is embedded with three more important features which are not available in Hadoop 1.x version. That is HDFS, that is YARN, that is at another resource negotiator, and HDFS federation, which helps to coordinate between number of name nodes when the data that is too voluminous has to be stored on the cluster, and HDFS high availability, which ensures that name node is always available and doesn't act as a single point of failure, right? So we are going to cover on these 5 important concepts which will help us to understand the underlying architecture of HDFS and how exactly it asserts its features like scalability, reliability, and fault tolerance. Now, let me give you introduction to this chapter before going into detailed description about the concepts. File systems that manage the storage across a network of machines are called distributed file systems, right? Whenever you want to store the data, not on a single system, but on multiple systems, when the files are very large, when the data sets are very large to be stored on a single disk, in such cases, we divide the file into subfiles. We divide the files into parts, and or we call it as fragmentation. We fragment the files and distribute them across a network onto various machines. Okay, so how a network can be defined? Connection between number of machines, right? Now a file can be distributed. If it is too large, it can be distributed onto all these machines in order to maintain this fragmentation mechanism, right? This will enable HDFS to provide multiple access at the same time, simultaneous access, so that the data can be read very fast. If the data has to be read from one single system, it takes more time, but the access is provided simultaneously on multiple systems on which the files are distributed, then the access will be much faster, right? So file systems that manage the storage across a network of machines are called as distributed file systems. But what is the disadvantage? What is the drawback of this? But complications of network programming persist. Lot of complications related to network programming persist. Can any of you mention what will be the complications with networking when we are working with network programming? What complications do we commonly talk about, students? Can you mention a few? Utilization of large bandwidths. When data has to be transferred to and fro between the machines in a network. In that case, large utilization of bandwidths has to be made. And bottlenecks with respect to network congestion. Bottlenecks of bandwidth when network congestion arises, right? When too much data is being transferred, then if there is a congestion in the network, then you may come across some network bottlenecks, right? So these are the complications that exist when we work with network programming. And one of the biggest challenges is making the file system tolerate node failure without suffering data loss. Remember, when you keep on increasing the machines in a network, now we are working, say in this scenario, we are working with 3 nodes. Now, if you are working with 4 nodes, 5 nodes, and if you keep on increasing the nodes in order to scale up the capacity of your network, in that case, if you are working with 100 nodes, failure of the nodes, chances of failure of the nodes keep increasing, right? If you work with one system, chance of failure is distributed for that system. But if you work with multiple systems, if you work with hundreds of systems, even the probability of one or many of those systems being getting failed is more, right? So one of the biggest challenges is making the file system tolerate node failures without suffering the data loss. So you come across lot of node failures, then that will be the biggest challenge, which have to be faced without suffering data loss. Remember, data is very, very important and proves to be treasure to any organization. So the organizations doesn't afford to lose the data. That is why it's the biggest challenge to tolerate node failures without suffering data loss. Now let's see the design of HDFS. HDFS is a file system designed for storing very large files with streaming data access patterns running on clusters of commodity hardware. Here there are three important features that we have to remember with respect to HDFS, and that we have given here. I'll explain each of these terms in detail now. HDFS is a file system designed for storing very large files. Very large files means if you want to store large volumes of data, if you want to process large volumes of data, if you want to analyze the data stored on large data sets, then HDFS is a solution for that. And it works with streaming data access. Streaming data access means you don't have data statically stored in a static schema. The data can be then and there generated, and it can be stored on HDFS simultaneously. It can be analyzed and further processed, and the result will be given. So what is happening here? When the data is generated, immediately it is stored and processed and analyzed, and the data results and the analysis results are given in no time. Okay, so HDFS helps to work with streaming data access and running on clusters of commodity hardware. It will be running on clusters of commodity hardware. Means why we use this term commodity? It is as cheap as that, as you buy daily commodities, right? If you want to scale up a system, initially in previous days it used to be very hard. Why? Because you have to go for budget approvals, get the budget approved, buy the systems, put it in place, and then configure it, connect it with other network and start using it. It used to be little expensive if you want to scale the systems in previous days, but scaling up the capacity of a data center has become as easy as buying a commodity and using it. Okay, so we say that running this HDFS file system enables to run the processing tasks on clusters of commodity hardware. The hardware has become so cheap as daily commodities, and scaling up has become very inexpensive, right? So that is why we use these three terms in defining HDFS infrastructure. So let us read the definition once again so that it will make more sense to you now. HDFS is a file system designed for storing very large files with streaming data access patterns running on clusters of commodity hardware. Now, to which other kinds of data it is not a good fit? HDFS is not a good fit for what kinds of access? Low latency data access. What is latency? The turnaround time between input and getting the output. The time duration between the input when the data is pushed into the system for analysis and when the analysis is given back. When the analysis result is given back, right? If the duration is very less, then we call it as low latency. But if the duration is very large, then we call it as high latency, right? Or not only pushing the data, analyzing the data, but we can generally explain it as the time duration between the input and getting the output, right? So when there is low latency data access that is required, when the data access has to be much faster, in such cases HDFS may not be a good fit Why? Because you're storing large volumes of data that too are distributed across many data nodes. Many nodes means many systems. In such cases, latency may not be, low latency may not be promised. You may take more time to access the data because all the data that is distributed on multiple nodes have to be consolidated, and only then it can be presented as a single file to the client. In such cases, data access may be slower when compared to other systems. That is why when you want low latency data access, then you should not be preferring HDFS. And also lots of small files. If you want to work with lots of small files, then do not prefer HDFS. Why? Because when you are storing lots of small files, every file's metadata has to be stored with the name node. I explained you in the last class that name node is a storage file which has the details about all the data nodes. Means name node contains the metadata about where the data file is divided and distributed onto multiple systems, right? Say there is a large data set. Now this data set is divided into smaller data units, and they are all stored on multiple nodes. And also remember, multiple copies of these parts are stored. Now all this information, how the data file is divided into multiple files and on which data node a particular file part is added or is stored, that metadata is stored with the name node. Now, if you have lots of small files, what will happen? All these files will have some metadata that is associated with it. Now, all this metadata has to be stored in name node. So, name node will face the overhead of storing more and more metadata. That is why HDFS deals with small number of large files rather than large number of small files. Listen to this carefully. HDFS deals with a mechanism of small number of large files rather than large number of small files. When small number of large files are maintained by HDFS, the metadata that has to be stored on name node that keeps decreasing. So that will be easy to maintain the name nodes. Name nodes will not be overwhelmed with large amount of metadata. That is why HDFS works with small number of large files, and if at all you are working with lots of small files, then HDFS is not a good choice for you. And HDFS is not a good fit for multiple writers and arbitrary file modifications. If you want to frequently modify your data set, or if you want to perform multiple writes to your data set, in that cases you may prefer RDBMS, but HDFS will not be a good fit for that, because HDFS is store once and read many times, and modifications can be done many times very comfortably as in RDBMS, right? So HDFS is not a good fit for low latency data access, lots of small files, and multiple writers and arbitrary file modifications. When large number of modifications have to be done, in such cases it will not be a good choice. Now let us see the concepts under HDFS. The first concept we are going to discuss is blocks under HDFS. Now what is a block? Let us understand about what is a block. A disk has a block size which is the minimum amount of data that it can read or write. So block is the basic unit. Block is the basic unit of transfer between the nodes, or the basic unit of storage on the nodes. So a disk has a block size which is the minimum amount of data. That is why we call it as minimum amount of data, basic unit that it can read or write. Now file systems for a single disk built on this by dealing with data in blocks. So when file systems for a single disk are being built, then they are dealt with data in the terms of blocks. Okay, whenever data is being stored, it will be stored in the form of blocks. File system blocks are typically a few kilobytes in size whereas disk blocks are normally 512 bytes, right? Whenever you see file system blocks together, they form few kilobyte size. But if you take disk blocks, a disk block is a basic unit, as I said. When you store blocks on disks, they are normally stored with the size 512 bytes. Okay, so the general size of a block which is stored on a disk is 512 bytes. There are tools to perform file system maintenance, such as disk file and fseek, that operate on file system at the block level. So you have some commands like df and fseek, which will help you to operate the file system at the block level in terms of blocks. Now, block in HDFS is a much larger unit. Generally, when you talk about any storage infrastructure, the block can be of size 512 bytes. But a block in HDFS is a much larger unit. Because HDFS deals with large amounts of data, when you take a block in HDFS, it is of the size 64 megabytes, and that is the default size, right? So by default, a block in HDFS is of 64 MB size. Now, like in a file system for a single disk, files in HDFS are broken into block-sized chunks, right? Whenever a file has to be fragmented, whenever a file has to be divided and distributed onto multiple machines, it is distributed in the form of blocks. Okay, that is why you need to understand very well about blocks, which is the basic unit of storage or transfer in the HDFS infrastructure. Like in a file system, for a single disk, file in HDFS are broken into block-sized chunks which are stored as independent units. Okay, they doesn't have any connection while being stored. All that connection data will be held with the name node. When the data set is fragmented, when the data file is fragmented, means divided into blocks and stored on various machines, you don't maintain any connection between those blocks. But in order to build back the complete file once again, that information will be stored with the name nodes, right? These terms will be little unfamiliar to you, but once we complete learning about name nodes, data nodes, and task nodes, you will understand. You will be able to connect all these dots. This is like understanding every topic separately. Now, once you have a understanding about the basic topic, then you will be able to connect all these dots and make some meaning out of it, right? So just understand each of these concepts separately. Later, we'll try to connect all these concepts, which will more better explain about this HDFS infrastructure, right? So let us see the second point once again. Like in a file system for a single disk, files in HDFS are broken into block-sized chunks, which are stored as independent units on multiple machines. But their data will be safe with the name node, so that if the file has to be reconstructed into a single file, name node will serve the purpose. Name node will help to do it. Now, unlike a file system for a single disk, a file in HDFS that is smaller than a single block does not occupy a full block's worth of underlying storage. Now, if you take a disk, on this disk, if you store a single block, then it does not occupy the full block's worth of underlying storage. In such cases, what will happen? Say if you don't have data that spans 512 bytes, then some of the disk space will be wasted? No. Whenever you're storing data on disks in the form of blocks, it may not span the entire disk, but still multiple blocks can be stored on the disk. Remember, disk will not store a single block. It will store multiple blocks. And remember, all these blocks doesn't belong to the same file. They may be from different files stored on this particular disk. that data is maintained by the name node, so that whenever the file has to be reconstructed, all that data will be fetched from the multiple machines and made as a single file, further given for analysis or processing. I think I'm very clear now. The disk stores not a single block, but multiple blocks of data, so that the space on the disk will not be wasted. Now, what are the benefits of block abstraction for DFS? Block abstraction means what? You're storing the data at a higher level in the form of blocks. Means we see it at a higher level in the form of blocks. So what are the benefits of this block abstraction? This block level terminology, block level storage. What are the benefits of this block abstraction for distributed file system? The first benefit is a file can be larger than any single disk in the network, right? Sometimes in such cases, if you divide the file, you can store it on multiple disks very comfortably without having to leave part of the file without being stored. Okay, so a file, when it is very larger than any single disk in the network, you need not worry, divide it into fragments and distribute it onto multiple machines. And making the unit of abstraction a block rather than a file simplifies the storage subsystem, right? Sometimes the files may not be small, which would fit on a single disk. So when you make the unit of abstraction as a block rather than a file, blocks are smaller, right? Files are little larger. So when you make the abstraction, unit of abstraction as a block rather than a file, it simplifies the storage subsystem. It makes the storage easier. And the third benefit is blocks fit well with replication for providing fault tolerance and availability, right? Blocks will help to work with replication easily for providing fault tolerance and availability. What is replication? I already told you about this concept. Replication is making a mirror copy of the existing data and storing it on multiple machines, so that though one machine fails, though one disk fails, then immediately that data can be fetched from two other copies that are residing on other two machines, right? So blocks fit well with this replication mechanism for providing fault tolerance and high availability. So when a disk fails, still the data can be fetched from another disk. If the data is corrupted, if the data is faulty, in such cases, another copy of data is available on a different machine. That is how fault tolerance is managed. Okay, so these three benefits make HDFS tend towards this block abstraction. Store the data in the form of blocks. Now HDFS FC command understands blocks. How? We can just give this command. If you run this command, %, Hadoop, fseek / files and blocks. Here you notice this hyphen files, blocks. If you give this command, then it will list the blocks that make up each file in the file system. So it will be easy to reconstruct the files when the entire file is needed for analysis, right? Now, another two important concepts under HDFS are name nodes and data nodes. Very, very important topic. Without understanding completely what is a name node and a data node, you will not understand what tasks they perform and how MapReduce framework is being executed on this HDFS. You will not understand very clearly. So try to understand name node and data node and their characteristics in depth, right? An HDFS cluster has two types of nodes operating in a master-worker pattern. You're already learning about patterns in OMD, right? In that, you will also learn about master-worker pattern. Master worker pattern means master will be responsible for delegating the work and workers will be responsible to carry on that work delegated. Master will be responsible to divide the work and distribute the work, and workers are responsible to carry out that work and report back to the master. The same mechanism is used in HDFS. HDFS cluster has two types of nodes operating in a master worker pattern, that is a name node and a number of data nodes. So what is the master here? Name node. Who are the workers here? Data nodes. The name node manages the file system namespace stored persistently on the local disk in the form of two files. Now name node will help to manage the file system namespace, means name nodes store the namespaces persistently on the local disk, again in the form of two files, right? So we can understand about namespace as combination of two different files, namespace image and edit log. This namespace image will contain the metadata, and the namespace image contains the metadata about the distribution of data across the machines. And edit log, what does it do? Whenever some updation happens to a file, this edit log will temporarily store that updation until it is safely written onto the disk. Say if some write operation is performed. If some write operation is performed on a data file, that is temporarily stored on edit log. And once that data is safely written onto the disk, then this edit log will be emptied, because this is a temporary staging area. This is a temporary edit log is a temporary storage space for updations. Why is it required? If at all the system fails before that updation is safely written onto the disk, then this edit log has that data without losing the updation. Okay, so once the updation is done, it is temporarily stored in the edit log until it is safely written onto the disk. If at all a disk failure occurs, that updation will not be lost because you have a copy in the edit log. Right, that is how edit log works. Once that updation is safely written onto the disk, then this edit log can be emptied. This edit log can be made nil. Okay, so the name node manages the file system namespace stored persistently on the local disk in the form of two files. What are those two files? Namespace image and edit log. Now the name node also knows the data nodes on which all the blocks for a given file are located. That is the main intention, and that I have been repeating from the last class. What does the name node contain? Name node knows about the data nodes, means about the machines I'm talking about. Data nodes means what? Multiple nodes, multiple machines on which the data is distributed, right? So the name node also knows the data nodes on which all the blocks for a given file is distributed, divided into blocks, right? So it knows about all the blocks for a given file where they are located, so that whenever the file has to be reconstructed again, the file is divided and distributed. Now again you want to reconstruct it into a single file. That can be done by the data name node, because name node has all the details about how the data is divided and which data nodes hold that separated data. Now, a client accesses the file system through an interface on behalf of the user by communicating with the name nodes and data nodes, right? Now, how do the client access the file system? Through an interface on behalf of the user. So client is also a system, and on behalf of the user, it will communicate with the name node and data nodes. If a client wants to get the file completely, name node has the data to reconstruct the file. If the client wants to analyze the data, Yes, still the analysis process on the data set can be done by searching for the addresses of the blocks on the name node on which data nodes the blocks are stored, send the computation to those data nodes, execute the analysis process, consolidate the results, and give it back to the client. I'll explain you more clearly. Say this is the client system. Now, the client request for a file reconstruction, because a data set, when it is stored on multiple machines, right? Now the client requests for a complete file, not a fragmented file. In such cases, the data from all these files are recollected by the name node. This is the name node, and that name node will give the entire file to the client. Now, the client wants to analyze the data. In such cases, the client gives his analysis process task, the client submits his analysis task, and this name node will see for which data that analysis task is to be addressed. Now, that analysis task is to be transferred to all those data nodes, means the computation. Remember, HDFS and MapReduce uses data locality, means data is not transferred, but computation is transferred onto the nodes where the data is residing, right? So this name node will send the computation to all those data nodes where the data is residing and gets the analysis results and sends it back to the client, which can be viewed by the user. That is how a client accesses the file system through an interface on behalf of the user by communicating with the name node as well as the data nodes. Now, data nodes are called as the workhorses of the file system. Namespace just stores the data about where the data is stored on data nodes. Terms will be little confusing. Understand, focus what I'm talking about. Name node will contain the data about, means metadata about where the data is stored on multiple data nodes, right? Now, data nodes are the workhorses. Name nodes are something like President of India. He's titular. He just has limited powers. But data nodes are like, executive members. Prime Minister, chief ministers, and under chief ministers, lots of other hierarchy of bureaucracies available who actually execute the work. Not titular, not for the title's sake. They actually execute the work, right? So data nodes are the workhorses of the file system, and they store and retrieve blocks when they are told to. Whenever clients or the name nodes want to store the data in the form of blocks or retrieve the data to reconstruct the file, data nodes will be responsible to perform that task. Without the name node, the file system can't be used, because name node only has the data about where the data is stored on data nodes. Suppose name node is not available, then all the data about where the data is distributed on the data nodes, if it is lost, you can't address the analysis task to those data nodes. You can't take back the data to reconstruct the files. It is not possible, right? So without the name node, the file system can't be reconstructed. The file system can't be reused. If the machine running the name node was obliterated or destroyed, if the machine running the name node was destroyed or obliterated, all the files on the file system would be entirely lost. That is what we mean by the importance of name node, right? Name node has all the links about where the data is stored on data nodes. If the name node is lost, then the entire system is like a blockout. You doesn't have any details about where the data is stored. Okay, so if the machine running the name node was obliterated, all the files on the file system would be entirely lost, right? When I'm talking about name node, I'm talking about a machine, I'm talking about a system, but designated as name node. When I'm talking about data nodes, I'm talking again about systems, multiple machines designated as data nodes, right? So this is the name node which will have metadata about all these data nodes, how the data is divided and where all the data is distributed onto the data nodes. That information is kept by name node. Now, if this name node fails, link is lost. If link is lost, you can't reconstruct the data back. Okay, that is the importance of name node. Now, how name node resilience to failure is achieved? Resilience means resistance to failure. Fight against the effort. What we say? Capability to confront or capability to face the failure. Capability to overcome the failure. That is called as resilience. Okay. Now, name node resilience to failure. How is it achieved? Hadoop provides two mechanisms for this. One is taking the backup of the files, and second is running a secondary name node. Listen to this very carefully. This is another important question. How is name node resilience to failure is achieved? By Hadoop taking up these two mechanisms, backup of the files and run a secondary name node. How is the backup of the files taken? You know what is a backup, right? Whenever some data is generated or whenever some data is being stored, the copies are also taken. Backup is also taken. Now, how is the backup of the files on Hadoop taken? It is taken on a local disk local to the data center, and another backup is taken on remote network file system. Backup of the files on Hadoop are taken on one backup is taken on local disk and one copy is taken on remote network file system. NFS stands for network file system. Now, also, it manages the failures by running a secondary name node. We have so far seen only about a primary name node, which has the details of all the data nodes, right? These are all data nodes. Now, Hadoop also maintains a secondary name node, which will come into action whenever the name node fails. Now, consider the name node is working fine. Then what would the secondary name node do at that time? When the primary name node is healthy and performing its tasks, what does the secondary name node do at that time? It tries to merge namespace image and edit log. What are the two files that are maintained by name node? We have seen in the initial slides. The two files maintained by name node are namespace image, which contains the metadata about the data nodes, and the edit log, which has a temporary storage of updations that have to be done. Now, secondary name node, when it is passive, secondary name node, when it is passive means when primary name node is working well, then what is the task of secondary name node? It will eventually, at frequent intervals of time, it will merge namespace images and edit logs so that edit log and namespace image doesn't become voluminous for the secondary name node to handle. Okay, so namespace, image and edit logs will be merged at frequent intervals of time by the secondary name node, and when the primary name node fails, immediately that task will be taken care by the secondary name node. When the primary name node fails, then secondary name node will become active and it will merge this namespace image that it is maintaining so far with the existing namespace and will start working as a primary name node itself. Understand carefully, whenever a primary name node fails, then secondary name node will become active and it will merge the namespace image by taking the backup copy from the remote network file system. Why? Because name node, primary name node and secondary name node will have a lag. Though both work and switch their tasks in fractions of seconds, still there is a slight lag between primary name node and secondary name node. In such case, there is always a chance of data loss when primary name node fails and secondary name node becomes active. In between this duration, there is a little lag. There is a lag between primary name node and secondary name node. That lag will result in loss of minor amount of data. But even that data is very important to any organization. So how to overcome that lag? Secondary name node, when it becomes active, immediately its namespace image is merged with the backup that is taken on the remote network file system, and then this secondary name node comes completely into active state as primary name node. So what is the formality that secondary name node completes before becoming a primary name node? It merges its namespace image with the remote network file system and becomes active and starts working as primary name node when? Until primary name node gets restored. It is not that secondary name node will continuously work as primary name node in case of primary name node failure. Secondary name node will become active, merges the namespace image with the remote network file system, starts working as the primary name node until this primary name node is restored to its action again. When the primary name node is restored from failure, secondary name node goes back to be into its secondary name node goes into its passive state once again and continues to merge namespace image and edit log like it used to do previously. Okay, that is how a secondary name node is run. You understood the task? It is performing a very crucial task. It is performing a very responsible task so that whenever a primary name node fails, it will not afford even the least amount of data to be lost. It will immediately merge its namespace image with the remote network file system and acts as a primary name node until the primary name node is restored. And once the primary name node is restored, it comes back to its passive state and continues to merge namespace image and edit log like it used to do previously. Okay, that is how name node resilience to failure is achieved. Okay, we have sufficient time. We'll finish this topic also. HDFS federation. Another important feature we were talking about, which has been introduced into Hadoop 2.x release, is HDFS federation. Now, the name node keeps a reference to every file and block in the file system in memory. We know that. That is the primary responsibility of any name node. The name node keeps a reference to every file and block in the file system in memory. Now, HDFS federation allows a cluster to scale by adding name nodes, each of which manages a portion of file system namespace. What does the HDFS federation do? If at all you want to scale up the cluster by adding more name nodes, why you want more name nodes? If you keep on adding data nodes, And if you keep on adding more number of data sets to be stored on the data nodes, what will happen? One single name node can't maintain all the data. In such cases, you can scale up the capacity of your cluster by adding the third name node, by adding the fourth name node. As you keep on increasing the capacity of your cluster, it can be able to store more and more amounts of data. When more amounts of data has to be stored, metadata also keeps increasing. In such case, one name node can't handle that volume, the large volume of metadata. In such cases, name nodes can be increased. See, initially I showed you the architecture will, simple architecture will look like this. Name nodes, which will store the data of the data nodes. Now, you are keeping on adding large number of data nodes, which can't be afforded by a single name node. In such cases, you can add name node 1, which will take care of these data nodes, and name node 2, which will take care of these 3 data nodes. Like that, you can keep on adding name nodes to scale up the capacity of your cluster to store more and more amounts of data, right? And another strategy is, another plan is to store all files rooted under a particular directory on one name node. That is another plan. Say if you have files under root user 1, and if you have another file system rooted under user 2, another file system rooted under user 3. In such cases, all the files under this particular root directory can be stored on namespace 1, and all files under this root directory can be stored on namespace 2, and all files under this root directory user 3 can be stored under namespace 3. That is another plan to store the metadata, so that the load can be distributed onto multiple name nodes rather than storing everything on a single name node. Understood? Now, connecting all these name nodes, that is called as federation. All these name nodes have to work in coordination, right? That is called as federation. Connection of multiple parts and being coordinated is called as federation. You can see USA. USA is a federal state, right? United States of America have many states under it. So USA is called as a federal government. In the same way, here, name node 1, name node 2, name node 3 are different parts, but they work together to achieve some common objective. That is called as HDFS federation. Now, under federation, each name node manages a namespace volume. Again, every name node manages a namespace volume, which is made up of the metadata from the namespace and the block pool information also, and a block pool containing all the blocks for the files in the namespace. Okay, so every namespace will again maintain 2 more important information other than namespace image and edit log. In HDFS federation, name nodes have 2 more information: namespace volume, which is made up of the metadata from the namespace, and a block pool containing all the blocks for the files in that particular namespace. Got it? So namespace volumes are independent of each other. Namespace volumes doesn't have connection with each other. If any construction of the file has to be done, it will be done only by the name node. But name node namespace volumes doesn't share anything. They doesn't have any communication between them. They are independent of each other, right? To access a federated HDFS cluster, clients use client-side mount tables. Client-side mount tables are maintained, and clients will use those client-side mount tables to map file paths to name nodes. How to access a federated HDFS cluster? With the help of client-side mount tables. These client-side mount tables will help to map what file paths to name nodes, which has the details about where the data is distributed on the data nodes. And this is managed in configuration using which command? View file system command, which will help us to get the hierarchy of the file system that is stored under the namespace. And we can also use the command view file system /URIs, universal resource identifiers, which will give us where exactly the information is stored, where exactly the volumes of data, the blocks of data is stored. That information will be given by this command view file system. Okay. Now in the upcoming class, we'll also focus on HDFS high availability and an important concept called as failover and fencing. Whenever some failure occurs, how it is fenced from loss of data. Okay, and further the command line interfaces and basic file system operations. This we are going to cover in the next class. Students, do you have any doubts in the topics discussed today? Are you concentrating, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Okay, now let us, I'll stop the recording and take the attendance. See you in the next class.